Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Timone Show. We're here today with Nasser. How you doing there,
Hello.
bud?
Fine.
Uh, so the Riverdale just came back from its mid-season finale or its Christmas break or whatever you want to call it, and it came back fucking strong, dude. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it was a little all over the place, but I'd say it was a really wild episode. It was really nice.
I told you, man, it was wild. I was all like, "What the fuck?" I didn't watch it till Thursday night because it aired Wednesday, and I was at my brother's house, and like we were watching Marvel movies and stuff. So, yeah, when I watched it that Thursday night, and I was like, "Whoa, dude, what's going on?" And yeah, it was cool, man. Like it was all blown away. I kind of didn't like There's gonna be spoilers if you're a Riverdale fan. You've probably already seen it. If you're not, you're just getting into the series. There's spoilers ahead, so whatever. And but I really didn't like. I thought I was cringing during all the FBI scenes. Like they're just gonna go in and he's all like how I don't I'm okay with the FBI scenes, but it was just like how the FBI agent was coming across. He's all like, "You got sloppy there, kid. You're you know, like all sorts of shit. Like he's a fucking like, he's talking to Archie like he's a fucking agent or whatever." And whatever.
I,
I'm like, I don't like, dude. You just hired this fucking random high school kid that that may or may not even have info. You don't know how well he knows his girlfriend or his girlfriend's family or also I don't all that shit just blew like it was I like it because I like how it's gonna lead into some other shit, especially when he's all like, I don't know if we caught the right killer, and so I know it's gonna lead into some other shit later on, but for right now, that how it was portrayed in that episode just really threw me.
I liked it, but I had a few problems with it. Mostly how it seemed really unprofessional. Uh, I don't know the FBI protocol, but
Me
I
neither
don't
at all.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's anything like what we saw. Like he just walked up to the dude. He didn't. I don't know. He just walked up to him. He's like, excuse me. He walked up to him. He's like, yo, you're like 17, 18-ish, and we need you to get all this inside info. And it's like, I don't know. It just seems. I don't know. It
It was
didn't
just
seem really
it was
professional.
just weird, you know. He was all like, Archie
Yeah.
could have easily just ignored him because he was just chilling with his headphones on. He's all like, whatever, and he just happened to glance and catch this dude die, like. But I mean, people usually do have that sort of that it's like a sixth sense feeling to where uh you can you can sort of sense if someone's like staring you down or whatever. It's sort of like a little feeling you get in the back of your neck, like a spider sense, like.
Yeah.
But either way, dude, like he could have easily just been oblivious and ignored him, and then like the plot of the show still would have moved on because they're always on some fucking Scooby Doo mystery shit. So like,
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would have been a lot better if the FBI dude, went up to his house instead of Archie just walking by and he's like, "Oh, you're Archie, right?" And Archie's like, "Yeah." Uh,
but they can't do that because they're trying to avoid contact with the dad, and Archie's barely ever at home anyways, dude. Like so. I mean, it was kind of the best move to track him down at school. It was just the dialogue. It was just like all just threw me, and like because I like the mission. I really like the mission that he's on. Like investigate your girlfriend's parents. It's gonna cause a lot of tension. Because he's gonna be super secretive about it, and at the same time, but like they're always trying to build this like an honesty and trust with each other, like how he's like, oh, I kissed Betty, and she's all like, I'm pissed, but I'm only kind of pissed because you're telling me the truth and you were in a life and death situation. It makes sense. Like so she was sort of reasonable about like so they're trying to build this honesty and trust, but then at the same time now the FBI has him going behind her family's back and trying to dig up fucking dirt and shit. So like that, I like that mission. I like that whole fucking aspect of it. So
Me
I,
too. I like that. I would say this episode was mostly good. There's just one other thing I didn't like, and that was how I think that maybe two different people wrote Cheryl that episode. Like two different people wrote her scenes because in
I
one
just
scene,
she's
in
extremely
one
bipolar, like a lot. But go on.
okay, well from watching her, I don't even think she's bipolar. I just think she's evil and knows how to play people. But this episode like kind of confused me with her character. I wouldn't say confused. It was just like I feel like they had two totally different people writing her, and they were never on the same page. Because at one point she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna tell Veronica everything." Blah blah blah, and then the next scene she's like, why don't you help Veronica out with this? Because that dude almost raped her too, and it just didn't seem like I don't know. It seemed like it was two different characters.
Like Cheryl, dude, that like they write her like to like where you wanna hate her, but you just can't. Like you can always like sympathize her in some sort of way because her mom's a total cunt. Apparently, she's been hoeing her whole fucking life.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. So you want to sympathize with Cheryl, and you totally can. So like she's like, but they try to write her to be this totally like deceiving villain. But like you don't see that in her. Like like she's capable of it, but you see more of a good guy in her than a villain in her in most parts.
I think sometimes she's just a lot misguided, but I still think her scenes in this episode didn't totally add up. But I do want to talk about the good in this episode if we're done talking about Cheryl.
Yeah, go ahead.
'Cause there's
Yeah,
not
go ahead.
good stuff.
Cause I'll
Okay.
talking about Cheryl just gives me boners anyway. So
Uh, um, okay, the good parts. Well, probably the best part would have to be Betty's brother, because they found him and they're heavily hinting at that he was the real killer, which I really love the idea because when we hit the mid-season finale, I was kind of pissed because uh, if that was going to be the killer, if it was going to be the janitor,
we knew it
I was
wasn't the
pissed.
janitor, dude. Archie knows it was. Archie knew it wasn't the janitor. He looked in his eyes and he saw that it wasn't him, dude. And fucking so like
Well,
he knows it wasn't the janitor. He knows deep down it's not the janitor.
Well, I knew that too. I knew it wasn't going to be him just because of how hard they forced it to be him. But
Yeah,
and we had half a season left, so they had to fill it up with something. And the show is all about mysteries and secrets and murder. So
yeah.
I figured we were going to find out who the real one is. But I was just a little bit uh, let down, I'd say. If so I thought maybe it's just knowing the CW, how the CW's track record, and they do have a lot of letdowns, mostly from their superhero shows. I could have totally seen it actually being the janitor. That's why.
Right, right,
So
right.
so this episode totally redeemed it for me.
Yeah, and even if it's not chick or cheek or chick or yeah,
Chick,
whatever
like Charlie,
Charles,
but one
whatever
chick.
whatever, even if it's not him, he's connected in some sort of way, so like, and I think that uh Betty's parents know, like even when he was a kid, that he was just slightly crazy. So like so they gave him up or whatever. And like I totally don't fucking buy that he was doing sex shit for money, dude. Like he does other shit where he fucking lures people in to fucking do sex shit for money, and he kills them and takes their money, and that's how he lives. Fucking
Dude, I was totally thinking the same thing because he just wasn't giving me those vibes. He was giving me like the shady vibes.
yeah, yeah. He was like, I want to bring this up because it was just cracking me up. He looks and sounds like Dave Franco, James Franco's little brother, and like, and it wouldn't be above Dave Franco to actually play in a CW show because the dude started on NBC on the Scrubs. It was like a Scrubs reboot. It was called Scrubs Med School. It was basically season 9 of Scrubs, but it was kind of like a Scrubs reboot where they were like the people were in med school. It had 4 people of the original cast, and where they were like the mentors of the fucking new people coming, like the new cast members coming in. So like, and then that's where Dave Franco first came in. Like that's the first time I've ever seen him. and so it's not really above him to play in TV yet, because he's just now getting famous in comedy movies and stuff. So the kid looked and sounded like him, at first I thought it was him because I wasn't
I could
totally
see it.
watching, and then I looked up and I was all like, oh, it's not him. And I was really excited at first, but the kid's good. He's a good actor, and I'm like really excited to see how his story progresses.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure now from just from what we've seen and all our speculation that he is the killer, and if he's not, then he probably has really heavy ties to them.
Yeah,
Or
he's getting elected.
it could also be like there could be two killers and just nobody knows about it
Ooh,
yet.
like
I,
Scream
I,
2.
yeah, or well, that's basically been at least two of the Scream movies have had two killers.
I don't remember
Uh,
Scream 3, but I remember Scream 2. It was all like, oh shit, there's two of them. It was really mind blowing. It was cool. It was
yeah,
cool.
but that was also the first one. The first one and the second one had two killers.
Right. I
But
guess the
I
first one
forget.
just had
Yeah.
like the informant guy, and then and then there was like the actual killer.
Nah, the first one was Billy Loomis and Stu. I forget Stu's last name, but no, they were both in on it. They were both the killers. Then in the second one, it was Billy's mom and I forget what the other dude's connection to her was, but it was two killers in both of those ones. And I seen the first Scream movie the most. The sequels were a little bit much. I haven't seen them as often as the first
The
one.
first one's really good, but I really love the Stu portrayal in Scary Movie. His name was Doofy. He was like a
Yeah.
retarded cop, but then at the end you find out he wasn't retarded. He was really like a badass or whatever. He was just pretending to be retarded the whole time. I loved that fucking movie. But
Uh, but but yeah, but back to Riverdale. I don't know. I really hope that he is the killer because I don't know. I know they did make it a little obvious with their hints, and
yeah,
usually when they make it obvious with the hints,
yeah,
it's not that
with
person.
that final scene at the end with him just like creeping up, or he just might just be really creepy dude, and that would be a good twist too. So like they're gonna push it that he's the killer. Like so, like oh yeah, it wasn't the janitor. We all knew it wasn't the janitor. It's fucking this dude that we just met. But that will also bring it another good twist if it's not him, but he's connected in some sort of way, or it really was the janitor and him and the janitor were buddies or some shit, or like like so.
I'm pretty sure he had the janitor in on it because that's the only explanation. So it does have to be at least two people. Maybe it could be just those two. Maybe it was uh chick and another dude, and those two got the janitor in on it somehow. Maybe with some sort of blackmail, with because the janitor was the dude that identified an innocent man, and that innocent man died.
Yeah, and
So
he was trying
maybe
to hide his identity for like his whole
yeah,
life. Yeah.
yeah, maybe chick and some other dude found out, and that's how they got the janitor in on it and put him up to it, or else they would have told everybody about it. That's just one possibility.
I like
Uh,
that.
But I do think it's at least a two-person job. So if it wasn't Chick and the janitor, it's at least Chick and one other dude.
Yeah, yeah. So you
The
think
one thing,
Alice Cooper?
with,
I laugh every time I say her name or I hear her
oh,
name. You think
uh,
Alice Cooper's less
so
involved than what you thought before?
I would have to say yes, um, because my first theory with the first half of the season was it was Alice. She was kind of orchestrating the whole thing, and my points were that everybody that stuff was happening to were people she hated and people she didn't want around her daughter, like with Fred getting shot, and Alice hated Archie, and she hated Jughead and everybody, and she wanted them all out of Betty's life. So I thought maybe Alice was putting somebody up to it.
Right.
But after these hints of it being Chick, and I don't think Alice had ever interacted with Chick. I don't think there's
I don't think
after
she has
putting him
either.
into the mix. Yeah, After putting him into the mix, I don't see any theories where they were ever on it together, especially because she gave him up. They never interacted. So I would have to say now at this point she is a lot less involved.
Yeah. What would be a really throw if Mr. Cooper, I don't know his name, if he was somehow involved or whatever, and that's why like he didn't want to bring Chick into that, like he didn't want, because he might be, he's all like, because he was really adamant against bringing going and finding Chick and bringing him to the house and all that. He was really adamant against all that. He's all like, no, dude, fuck this. Like this is not happening. And then it was Alice that came in later. She's like, "No, we're doing this shit, dude. This is what we got to do." So that so there might be some shit involved where Chick and his dad if are somehow involved in all this, because that'd be a really throw. Because like the Mr. Cooper's like a really just side character. We don't really see much of him at all. We saw a lot of him more in the first season than we do in this season, and like so that'd be like a really fucking spin. I just now thought of this, so like so, so that'd be
I
a
mean,
really sweet sort of spin, so because he was really against it, he was all like, no, fuck this, dude, like because he was like, it might blow our cover, like something something, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, when you see the character less, there's a lot more speculation you could put into where they've been, especially at the times of a lot of these murders and attempts at murder. Uh, that is one possibility, but I don't know because I don't I don't know. I don't know if I could actually see that though. I don't know if I could really see him having been in on it with Chick. I don't know if he has that much of a motive, honestly.
And that's kind of like a beauty of it, is because we don't know much about his character at all. He's just like he's just Betty's dad for as far as we know. He's just like you don't really know much about his character at all. He's barely relevant, and that would be like a really extreme twist if you get like in the last couple episodes just like a lot of fucking Betty's dad with some crazy backstory, him and Chick hang like like there, I don't know, like this show so far has been throwing pretty decent twists. Like in the first season, they threw a lot of like really decent twists, whatever, and it was really weird. Like a lot of the whole like incest aspects of it, and like with Cheryl's whole family, and like a lot of this shit was just really weird that you never expect in an Archie show. So like
Yeah,
so then season two can just go just as crazy with just shit that you don't expect in an Archie show, and like
I think.
Betty's dad is a killer. Like what? Like
Well, I think what happened with Archie comics in recent years was I think around 2013 was when they started their horror line of comics. Afterlife with Archie. Then in 2015 they rebooted everything, and Archie comics really grew up. And
yeah,
then they started Riverdale, and Riverdale season one was like it was a perfect example for me of a show that I would like because I like high school dramas and I like murder mysteries. So you wrap it all in one, especially with the Archie characters. There's nothing you would dislike about the first season, and they did throw so many curveballs. But I think season two got the CW effect. Personally, when I say the CW effect, I mean for most CW shows, you watch the first season, sometimes the first two seasons, it's like the greatest thing you ever watched. Then as you go on, they fill it in with the CW cheesiness, like especially Arrow seasons one and two, The Flash season one and two. I mean, well, season one mostly. When you get to season two and three, they started recycling plots in The Flash. I can't speak about season four because I haven't seen it yet,
season
but I
four
think
is
Riverdale.
season four is like a wild card. It's good, and you don't know where it's gonna go because the villain's not a speedster. They're like so right away you're getting something new with the Flash because the first three seasons were speedster villains, and it was all like, what the fuck, dude? You're doing the same shit over and over. So this season four is a wild card. It's good. And Arrow's a wild card this season too, because you don't know what the fuck's going on, and it's pretty strong. like Arrow has a really strong dynamic with him and his son William, and I think it's gonna grow even stronger because like in later in the show. But and so go on what you mean about the CW effect.
The CW effect basically is when they start to recycle the plot as often as possible, like we've seen with Flash.
Yeah,
They, I, I wouldn't say they always recycle plots with other shows, but what they do with every show is they always add in the cheesiness, the family drama. I mean, it started with Arrow is when I noticed it because I didn't watch too much CW before Arrow, but I did watch Supernatural before I started watching Arrow. But even with Supernatural, after season five, when the creator left, they started to add in a bunch more cheesiness, recycled plots, lots of, especially for the Flash, they started to add in a bunch of weird stuff like they did with Arrow, like the Olicity fans,
yeah.
Oliver and Felicity, those shippers. They started doing a lot of weird stuff, catering to them in Flash. Sometimes I felt. Uh, I don't feel
Dalen
like stating examples
Dalen
right
told
now.
me Dalen told me because I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan, and Dalen told me that because like Kevin Smith directs a few episodes of Flash and a
Yeah,
few
he
episodes
does
of
here and there.
Supergirl, and he told me that like he was on a Arrow set, and because like apparently he tweeted something about something
I
bad
think he
about
liked a tweet or he retweeted a tweet,
he. Oh,
but it was yeah, it was about the Olicity
and
fans.
and Olicity fans fucking chased him off set of CW. Like get the fuck out of here, dude. I think that, like those Olicity fans are hardcore, and they're like Justin Bieber fans or fucking of that level where they're out for blood, and they're dangerous, like they're dangerous people.
Yeah, dude, they're just the internet weirdos. Like I don't know, and I've seen a lot of those like Olicity fan weirdos even get into the comics industry. I don't know how, but I've seen a few of them get in there. But yeah, they I don't know. These weirdos like to ruin it for everybody. Like they ruined it for Kevin Smith, but but and I'd say they're part of the CW effect, honestly.
They
But
probably
yeah,
are
I
because writers and producers or whatever they see these tweets and they see this fan base and they're all like, So what do we do? Like, do we go with what our original ideas? Do we got to tweak to the fans? Do we got to do this? And and that's a like a real tough decision because if you just go with like your original thing, like I personally as a creator myself, I think that's the best decision to do is just go with what you originally are gonna do because that's what brought the fans in the first place is doing what you were doing, and so
here's
and
here's some good not to interrupt you, but
go
here's
ahead.
good advice that I got was somebody told me once I get my comics out there because I write a lot of comics but none are published yet,
Right.
and they said just once they're out there just keep writing them and how you would like the story to go and other people will like it. It's when you start catering just to certain sections of fans that people get mad and stop reading. But you should always listen to the fans. I know Scott Snyder, who he writes comics. He's written a novel before. Uh, he writes all the big Batman stories the last few years, and he honestly, when people on social media say that he's a terrible writer or say they don't like a story, Scott Snyder messages them personally and asks how he can improve. That
See, that's a good
is
idea, and I was gonna get onto that. Where like it's always a good idea to listen to the fans because the fans might have some really good ideas, and
yeah.
so it's always a good, but also try to stick to your main narrative as much as possible but still try to take some ideas from the fans here and there. So like try to keep up with your whole original intent of how you want your stories to go, and if fans have some shit that like could really add into it or whatever, then like yeah, dude, like absolutely throw that stuff in there, and
Yeah.
and give them credits. Give the specific fans credits too to like you're like oh man, this wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the fans, but specifically such and such. Like
Yeah, like I always write for myself, and then I ask people to give me feedback on what I can improve on and what they think I'm not good at, that way I can improve. And I think that's the best thing to do as a writer. But
You know,
I
I
don't think
feel
that's
I
what the
give you
CW is
I
doing.
feel like I give you like the worst feedback ever because like I like everything you write and I'm all like, man, this is really good because and like he's definitely and he keeps improving every time. He keeps on like getting better and better and better, especially from when I was reading the stuff that you were writing like 2.5 years ago or whatever, like 3 years ago. And I'm all like, wow, dude, this dude's getting great and he's awesome. But I
Well,
think what it
thanks.
is because you're going to all other people also besides me, and you're getting pointers from them. So like I'm all like I don't know what to tell the guy, dude. He's great. Like he's way better than I was at you're way better than I am at your age. So I think you're just gonna keep on improving and just getting better and better and better. So like I feel like I give you like really bad feedback.
You give me all right feedback. The one that does it the best is Jeremy, I'd have to say. Jeremy doesn't read all my stuff, but he's read a little bit, and he gives the best feedback out of anybody.
Oh, dude, I bet, dude, he's really good and he's unbiased. So like he'll tell you what's shit and what's not. Like Jeremy's one of my best friends, and he'll like do like if I give him something that's complete shit, he'll tell me like, dude, this is complete shit. Like you need to just throw that out. And I mean, it hasn't happened, but I know for a fact that he would. So like,
Yeah,
so he's unbiased
but
at all. He won't be like, oh, this is great just to fucking like to make you feel good. He'll tell you like, oh no, this is complete shit, dude. Like
yeah,
you need to stop.
but But not to turn this entirely into part two of our last one, part two of the all things writing. I do want to say that the CW, I don't think they're reaching out to the right fans. I think they're listening to just one section. When you listen to one section, you only get one point of view. It's not going to turn
They're
out good.
listening
I
to the
think,
section who's talking the loudest. You know,
yeah,
who's making the biggest impact. They're not like because really the diehard fans will take whatever they'll get. You know, we'll be like, oh well, like if half the season is ruined by a fucking fans Twitter post or whatever, dude, we'll suffer through it because like the diehard fans will fuck like I watched Arrow uh season 3 and 4 and they're complete horseshit, but then it redeems itself in season 5, and so
yeah. I didn't watch season five yet. I might one day, but I don't know. Arrow just it was just getting way too bad for me to keep watching, and I used to love it. It used to be my favorite show.
hello.
Yeah, you didn't hear me?
Nah, you just suddenly just stopped talking. Now I didn't know if you cut off or not. So
I was talking. It must have cut off. What I was saying was I watched Arrow up to season four, but I didn't watch season five. It was just it was getting too bad for me to continue. But I might try it again one day.
you should. You should. Season 5 was really strong. Season 5 was up there with the season 1 and 2. Season 5 was really strong, and the villain for it is like you don't know like you kind of have an idea of who it might be because like and then when you find out who it is you're like oh shit dude this dude's got like everything on Oliver, so you're like so like it like the villain feels really threatening, and like the whole season is just it's good, it's good, it's good.
No, I
I don't know
think
what to say about it. I don't know what else to say. Like he eventually he goes to ask for Slade. He goes to Deathstroke for help because he can't do the shit on his own with his team. You know, so he has to recruit. He goes to the Russian mafia, the Bratva. He's all like, "Dude, I need your guys' help. I need Slade's help." He's like, "I need
uh,
all your guys' help because I can't do this shit on my own with my team."
uh,
So like,
that doesn't sound very good to me. But I'll wait till I actually watch it before I speak on it.
oh, it's strong. It's a way stronger seasons than 3 and 4, dude. It's up there with season 2. Like I I kind of have it
But
tied with season 2, and season 2 is my favorite.
but Okay, so one thing about this episode of Riverdale that I think adds a lot of conflict is the whole thing with the serpents, with some of them going to Riverdale High. Now, I don't really like the serpents. Like I don't even know what to make of them because at some points they're like we're a gang, and then some points they're like we're not a gang. Then they're like,
Yeah,
oh no,
sometimes
dude,
they're
you
like
do
huge
drugs.
assholes, and
They're like,
sometimes they're super
dude,
friendly. Yeah.
dude, sometimes they're like, you do drugs? None of us do drugs. Then they're like, yeah, we all do drugs. We all drink. And it's like, oh no, it's like a bunch of like. Sometimes it seems like a PG-13 gang of 40-year-olds.
Yeah, and then they just recruit all their kids to join the gang too. So like if your dad is a Southside Serpent, then you're basically a Southside Serpent too, or whatever. so
Yeah,
and so
I don't really,
and
I don't
so
know. I don't
so
really understand them or get them.
you build a jingle jangle fucking chem lab in your fucking basement of the high school, and you start fucking selling jingle jangle, which is like it looks like they just snort fucking pixie sticks. And so I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, that drug seems awesome. I'd like to try it, but like, I don't know, dude. Like, not from the name, like, it just seems like the jingle jangle. I'm not buying anything. It just sounds sketchy. It sounds sketchy as fuck, dude. It's like when they started calling ecstasy Molly. That's all like, dude. That doesn't sound like something like I want to do. Like,
Okay, like here's the thing. Okay, I've read some Archie comics. I won't say that I've read like thousands of them, but I've read a handful of Archie comics,
I've read
mostly the
throwback
horror
Archie
stuff.
books, and I've read 2 issues of
I've read
Vixens.
some. I've read some of the really old stuff. I've started reading the newer stuff, but I know I'm a lot behind. Um, I'm up to date on like Afterlife with Archie and Sabrina and Jughead the Hunger, and I'm waiting for the Vampironica series to come out. But I've read a few of like just mainstream Archie stuff, some of the new stuff, some of the old stuff, and I don't see the serpents in it much, at least from what I've read. But I feel the CW, if they were trying to make this a gang, they really don't know how gangs work.
Yo,
Like,
like I want to touch back on that, but while you were talking about when you mentioned Vampironica, I was reading Vixens today, and there was an ad in Vixens #1 for this Jughead fucking werewolf. Like Jughead's a
yeah,
werewolf,
that's
and
Jughead the Hunger. That's Jughead the
yeah, dude,
Hunger. I've read.
I want to pick those up. I want to start picking those up. But that
Let me tell you though, that one started as a one shot. Then the one shot sold so well, they started it again over from number one. So you're gonna have two number ones. One of them says one shot, one won't say one shot. So you got to get the one shot, the number one, the number two, number three comes out in a few days on Wednesday.
Okay, cool, dude. Yeah, that's a title. I'm definitely. I don't know anything about it, so don't. You can spoil it. If you know anything about it, you can
Oh,
tell
I'm
me.
not gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna
But
spoil it. It's a really good story.
if you know anything about it, you can go ahead and tell me. I don't really care about spoilers, but it's a title I'm definitely interested in picking up. So like,
You'll
but
like it. I really like it.
the cover art that I just saw in the little tiny little like thumbnail sized ad, I was all like, whoa, that looks really cool. So like, I'm just basing off like what I want to buy just off the cover art.
Yeah, I do that a lot of the time. It's really sweet. It's a great story.
Nice. Uh, but now back on the how to do gangs or whatever. We were talking
Oh,
about this. Me and T were watching Black Lightning. I had already watched the first episode, so then I was over at my brother's house. I was hanging out with T, and I was like, let's put on the first episode of Black Lightning. And so we were watching it, and like they don't know, and he was just like, and so that's more of a black based show. So this is from my buddy who's doing this off of black. He's a former gang member and everything. That's off of his perspective of how they're doing black gangs. And he's like they're really trying to do black gangs, but they're just not pulling it off yet. And he's like, and this shit takes place in New Orleans too. Like they're not doing fucking black gangs right. And I'm like, well, it's gonna have the CW effect where it's gonna be watered down. Like Black Lightning,
yeah,
first
they're trying to
episode of
be
Black
too
Lightning,
family
what I
friendly.
got of it was a watered down Luke Cage, but that's what you're gonna get because it's CW. But for CW, I thought it was really good. I'm like, dude, they're and my buddy T, he thought so as well. He's all like, yeah, for CW, I guess, like, but it does have, this is what I think of the CW effect is everybody's rich. And like I think the only time it doesn't take place is in Riverdale, where you only have uh a few. You have a few rich characters. You have Veronica's family, and you have Cheryl's family, and everybody else is just fucking like working class, fucking whatever people. So like, that's why I give props to Archie is they don't have the everybody's rich aspect of the show.
Yeah. I don't know. I think CW, they try to be family friendly, but a lot of the stories they want to do shouldn't be family friendly. Like,
Right.
okay, in Riverdale, the last few episodes they covered the topic of rape, and that's not really that's a touchy subject. It's not really something family friendly, and I give them props to how they executed that storyline. But then when it comes to gangs, like, oh no, we got to tone this down.
Yeah.
I don't get what they toned down the gangs for.
Well, for one reason, I think they did the rape thing because rape culture is becoming way more extreme these days. So to do more, like, you have a whole show about it, Law and Order Special Victims Unit. That whole show, I was watching that shit with Corey's wife, Sanji, and I've never seen an episode in my life. I was watching episode after episode after episode with her the other night, and every single episode's about rape. So like, you have a whole show about rape, but then to bring it into a show where you don't even expect that type of aspect or whatever. So like to bring that type of dialogue in, I think it's good to do
Yeah,
that.
I give
I think
them props how they did
yeah,
it.
like you said, you gave it props, and I agree. I give it props as well, and I think it's good to do that, and especially in a show where you don't expect it from, where like when you're watching Law and Order, you expect it in every single episode about different rapes and or if the chick is lying about being raped or whatever. But then you have it in this show about and they do it in CW and in Archie, or I'm gonna call it Archie, it's Riverdale, but in Archie they did it in a
Yeah,
way to where like they tried to show you a way on how to open a dialogue to like not if like to not your maybe not your family but to your friends and whatever, to like they're trying to show people and viewers and just or people in general a way to just if it has happened to you to like how to open a dialogue about it, and that's really cool. Oh,
you know. Oh, sorry. Go on.
no, I was kind of done anyway, so go on, go jump
Uh,
in.
Well, I started watching comic reviewers on YouTube, a bunch of different channels, and there's this one channel I watch often called Diversity in Comics, and the dude, uh, I don't agree with him on all his reviews, but there's one thing in his reviews that's consistent or something he points out that's consistent is a lot of people are kind of scared when they write, and they often get a little in between on things, and he calls it. He says they don't commit to the bit, and I think that's kind of part of the CW effect is they never commit to the bit. Like they're like, oh yeah, let's make the show more adult, but then they want to tone it down a lot. So they're not really committing to the bit. They're not. They're like, okay, we're gonna tackle problems of rape, but then they really could show all the problems. They really could show all the problems of gang violence and this and that and getting involved with the wrong people. But then they don't commit to the bit. They're like, oh well, they're in a gang, but then the gang's not so bad. The gang is nice people. The gang will hand out Christmas presents to people. But
Hold
then at the
on.
same time, like,
Hold on. Fresh thought though, because this is some stuff that Hell's Angels do. Like they're like known to be like this notorious fucking like motorcycle gang. But like I know a few Hell's Angels personally, and they're really nice guys. Like sometimes they'll get rowdy or whatever when they party, but like they do charities or whatever. Like they'll go and buy toys and donate them to the needy, and they'll do all this stuff. So the Southside Serpents were trying to build off that aspect to where like you have the people in Riverdale will talk about how they're like this notorious gang and they're all fucking whatever people, whatever. But in reality, they're really not that bad of people, dude. They're just they help when they can, and they're people that live on the shitty side of town, and they're just
Well,
struggling to get by. So they just formed a little unity with each other to like and so they'll help. They formed a brotherhood. Like if one person's struggling, they'll help them out and boost them up and whatever. But now you have to pay that back by doing whatever sort of shitty fucking crime or whatever sort of shit that involves whatever. So like they're trying to just build off this aspect of like maybe they're really not that so bad. Like, but the people of Riverdale just paint this picture of them that they're like these sinister fucking bloodthirsty outlaws. They're out for nothing but fucking cocaine and hookers and fucking just being rowdy. But in the reality that we see in the show, and obviously like they're like they just do whatever little petty crime they can like to just make ends meet. So
well, I don't know. I could mostly understand. I mostly get what you're trying to say, but I still think part of the CW effect is they never want to commit to the bit. It's like I see it in comics a lot. I see it in shows a lot. Like in Arrow, I forgot what season it was. If it was the end of season 3, I want to say when Oliver's like, I'm not coming back, and he like leaves, and then like 2 episodes. I think it's like the season premiere maybe of season 4, or maybe I'm wrong because it's been a long time since I watched these. But then he just comes right back, and I don't know. I mean, I get it. He's never gonna leave forever. I mean, he's the star of the show, and the show is about Arrow. It's not called anything else. It's not called DC Universe where a new protagonist could take over. But so
But
many
the
times they
show's
don't.
called Arrow, so anybody could take up the Arrow mantle. But and
N-
this
no.
is one thing that CW does that pisses me off is they don't stretch out the good and interesting storylines because there's a few times it even happens in this current season where Oliver quits being Arrow and John Diggle takes up the role or whatever. And in this season, they actually do it for a couple episodes, but uh, like when Flash gets caught in the when they did Flashpoint, they did one episode of Flashpoint. They could have done like maybe like 2 or 3 episodes of Flashpoint. At the end of the third one, he gets out of it and fixes everything and
I'm tired
whatever.
of seeing Flashpoint everywhere. Flashpoint is like way too overdone. They
It's
should never
overdone.
touch it
Yeah,
again.
the new Flash movie is gonna be Flashpoint also, and so like, what the fuck you
Dude,
guys keep on doing?
man,
But I get
they got
why DC extended universe is doing Flashpoint for their movie because apparently Ben Affleck wants to opt out of being Batman because he was really excited about being Batman at first, but now he's all like, well, Batman's like turning into a shit character because of these movies. So like he's trying to opt out of it. So they're gonna do all this Flashpoint shit to just try to reboot the DC
well,
entertainment universe, which they really didn't need in the first place. They just need to just slow it down.
well. I think they already announced that movie before Ben Affleck even said anything about that. So it still bothers me that there's like what 80 years, give or take a few, 80 years of the history of the Flash. Uh, and they are like, okay, we're gonna make a movie. We're gonna call it Flashpoint. I
Yeah,
get it. It was well
they're gonna go
received.
back. They could go back years and years of storylines, but they go back to like when did Flashpoint happen in like the early 2000s?
Yeah, about so.
So
Early,
yeah, so
early
they're
to
gonna
mid.
go back
I
to that
want to say.
storyline, and it's like they already made a really dope animated movie about it, which rebooted the whole DC animated movie timeline, and which was really good. And then they made an okay. No, they made a semi decent. I can't even call it okay. It's semi decent. Okay, one episode of Flashpoint in the show, and and
It was a waste.
it was a waste because like I said, it should have lasted for a couple more episodes because like it was really just like I don't know, it didn't do any like the impact didn't have much on it. Like John Diggle's daughter became a son, and then everything
Yeah, it
else, like
was really
and I think
pointless.
that's the only major ramification that really happened because everything else went the same. Cisco's brother died too, or whatever. So like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so much history when it comes to the Flash, and with the Flash, there's always that changing the timeline stuff. So they didn't even need to put Flashpoint as a movie or as a one episode thing to change the timeline. They could literally, it's like pretty much every other Flash story is him messing something up, going back in time, going forward in time, ending up in another dimension. And I really like that stuff. And if I ever can, I want to track down all the old Flash stuff from the early days. Uh, but
I might have some
there's
old Flash stuff. I don't know what I have in my DC collection. My DC collection is a lot smaller than my Marvel collection, but I might have some old Flash stuff, and I'll let you get any of it that I have.
sweet. Yeah, I might have more Marvel stuff than DC stuff, but I have thousands of comics and over 100 paperbacks and stuff. But I might have more Marvel than DC. But I prefer oddball stuff. I like horror stuff, indie stuff.
No, back to CW pissing on their dope storylines and fucking stretching out the stupid shit. So like you spend in Flash, you spend episodes and episodes and episodes trying to figure out who Savitar is, or trying to figure out who the like all this shit. But then they throw in all these side stories that are way more interesting that you could put those in just 2 or 3 episode arcs, but instead they just do it in like a one little 40-minute episode. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, the shows could be a lot more interesting than what they are. But as a comic fan, I'm gonna take what I can get. And uh, but then an Arrow, like you were talking about how he quits being Arrow for like an episode or whatever,
Yeah,
and then he goes right back to it, and,
yeah, they don't commit to the bit.
and they don't commit to the bit. And I think they did it pretty well in this new season where he quits because the whole reason he quits, he's trying to be more of a father to his son or whatever. Because his son knows that he is the Green Arrow, and his son's all like, "Dude, you need to quit doing this shit if you want to win my heart." Basically, that's not what he says, but there's like episodes of dialogue about this shit. So then he's all like, "John Diggle, you need to be the Arrow," and I did a review about this with on one of the Timone Show episodes with my buddy Beatty. And every time we talk about this, we were like, dude, John Diggle is way too big to be wearing that arrow suit. 'Cause he's wearing the exact same arrow suit that Oliver Queen wears, and it's like you can tell he's wearing the exact same one. It's like super tight on him. His fighting is restricted. Like he can't pull off the shit that he needs to do in that Green Arrow suit. Like no, like they don't give him a bigger Green Arrow suit. He's wearing the exact same one, and he's too big to be wearing that fucking suit. And we crack up about that every time, but like they did this one in a way. It lasts a couple episodes, but then Oliver gets forced into being Arrow again because there's some shit that's going on that happened in the last season, in the finale of the last season, that's still going on in John Diggle's mind, or whatever. And he's going through some PTSD to where he can't fully commit to being Arrow or fighting crime in general. He's not himself on the field. He almost gets
Well,
Renee killed, and all sorts of shit happens, dude. So he's all like, dude, I can't be on the field anymore. So so then Arrow is forced to come back to Arrow, even though his life is in jeopardy. Like his whole life is in jeopardy in being Arrow because there's some sort of FBI federal investigator investigating Oliver Queen being the Arrow. So like she's marking
uh,
every fucking movement that Oliver Queen is fucking making. So like there's all like I don't know. This season is really it's a wild card. I don't know if it's good or bad. It's a wild card. I'm entertained by it nonetheless.
you want to know another part of the CW effect that I just thought of when you mentioned uh what did you just say? Now I'm blanking. But Oh yeah, when you said about expanding on the good stuff, how they never do that.
Yeah.
Uh, Another part of the CW effect is especially when okay, they spend the whole season. Okay, the season's what, like 22 episodes. They spend
Roughly,
like
yeah.
21. They spend like at least 21 episodes. Like, okay, we got to figure out who Savitar is. We got to figure out who this villain is. Who's Reverse Flash. Then in the last episode, as soon as the person's unmasked, it takes them like 10, 15 minutes to destroy them. That's something I see in horror movies a lot too. As soon as the person's unmasked, they forget how to fight, they forget everything they were just doing, and they lose like in 2 minutes. I think that's the CW would be so much better if by the mid-season finale maybe or a couple episodes before you get them unmasked. You don't need to drag out the mystery for the whole season. People will lose interest. You condense it. The first I don't know 8 to 10 episodes you unmask them. Then it's like, oh no, we know who it is. Then you could spend episodes trying to figure out how to defeat him because it shouldn't be some quick thing. The season finale shouldn't be when you take down the person, when you take down your villain, because it's just too quick and it's an abrupt ending. And there's so much cool stuff you could do to actually show them being a good hero instead of, oh no, it's the last 10 minutes, so they win by default according to the TV. Know what I
Every
mean?
every CW mid-season finale that I've seen this year, like they all ended on a low note for the heroes, and I think that's really cool. Like at the end of the Arrow one, you see like all these villains are teaming up together. You didn't know, you just thought the new villain in Arrow just had a Black Canary from Earth 2, but but then at the end you see he's got like all these other motherfuckers working for him too. So then and then at the end of Legends of Tomorrow, they kind of win, but then at the very end of it, John Constantine comes in out of nowhere. He's all like, "Dude, I got information that you guys need," and it's drastic. And then at the end of Flash, uh, Flash thinks he's about ready to stop the villain, but the villain mind swapped himself with a whole nother body, and then so Flash is over there next to a the dead body of the villain's previous body, and now he's going to jail, or now he's in trial for murder. And now, but he wasn't the Flash. He was just Barry investigating the dude's house, and he found this dude's dead body, and he's holding the murder weapon and all sorts of shit. So now Barry Allen's going to jail or whatever. And then
Oh, go figure. It's gonna be out in an episode.
probably because, yeah, like I said, they're not going to stretch the interesting shit. They're not going to have Barry in jail for like 3 or 4 episodes or whatever, and like have Team Flash try to figure out shit on their own or whatever. Like, no, they're not going to do that. But it's still it's still a dynamic you didn't expect or whatever. And then an Arrow, like I already mentioned Arrow, but then in Supergirl just gets her ass beat by the fuck by Rain. Like she almost dies, and fuck it. So then and then you spend a whole fucking, and then when Supergirl comes back, you spend the whole fucking episode of Supergirl trying to get out of the coma, and Brainiac 5 somehow downloaded his consciousness into her consciousness, so he's trying to help her get out of this jam, whatever. And at the same time, Rain is still fucking shit up. So they don't have Supergirl, but they have 2 members of the Legion of superheroes from the future, and then the rest of Team Supergirl, which kind of sucks. You know, like Martian Manhunter's
Yeah.
dope, but he barely, like he doesn't really do much in the show, but he joins in the fucking for this fight. But they're getting their asses handed to them. So the CW mid-season finales ended really strong, like really low note, like for the heroes, like on some Empire Strikes Back type shit, where you're like, oh my god, how are they gonna recover from this? You know?
That's a good thing. It doesn't always have to be on a high note. Like I know I said it'd be cool to see him unmasked by the mid-season point, but that's not really my type of like. I'm not saying that's the blueprint for how every mid-season finale should go, but I'm just saying when they really hype up the villain and they're like, "Oh no, who could be under the mask?" It's always we find out in the last episode, maybe second to last episode, and they always defeat him within like the last 5 minutes of the season. And I think it's really generic and boring, and I think the CW really does need a lot of better writing.
They do, but then maybe like they do have really good writers, and it's just what they're like what gets approved by the the staff that's above, you know, like so you can't blame the writers full heartedly, you know, like you don't really know who's to blame on what gets fully produced or not, because like neither of us are working the industry, so
Yeah, I
so
know.
you don't really know who's to fully blame. Like mainly it'll be up to the like it's the producers because the producers are the ones who have the most money on the line doing the stuff. So like it's usually up to the like it's the producers that are doing stuff. Like if you look back at the Wild Wild West movie, that producer was gonna do a Spider-Man movie back in the day, and he wanted a giant fucking robot spider to be in that fucking movie. But they're like, no, we're not going to do this. So then, once he produced Wild Wild West, one of the big villains in that movie was a giant robot spider. So like, the dude wanted to get a giant robot spider in a movie. He just didn't care what movie it was. So like, so uh. So there's that type of shit that happens in the whole production of a TV show or movie or just whatever you're trying to get out there. So there's always that, and so you never know really who's the fully blame in what goes wrong or what goes right in the show.
Yeah, I feel, but I don't know. I am really excited to see where this where the second half of this season goes for Riverdale. Um, I feel there's going to be a lot to explore with Chick and with his history because he's a new character. We know nothing about him, and he seems to be crazy. He's involved in a lot of stuff, so there's so much they could play around with his character. And I don't know. I'm really excited because Sabrina's coming. I think it's later at the end of this year, I believe.
Yeah, it's on Netflix,
The
right?
Sabrina show. Yeah, it's going to be on Netflix. There's going to be two seasons of it. I know
Nice.
they ordered two seasons. I don't know if both go up at the same time or if there's going to be time between the first two. Like if only season one will be up at the end of this year.
Do you
But
know if it's gonna cross over with Riverdale at all?
uh, they almost have to. I'm pretty sure because I mean they kind of be dumb not to. Uh, I mean, Sabrina's one of their flagship characters, and she's a really known character. A lot of people don't even know that she belongs to Archie Comics. Uh, but a lot of people like the whole Sabrina show, and I really can't see them not crossing over. I mean, it'd be a smart move, really smart marketing move.
I was watching. This was a while back, like right when the Sabrina got announced to be on Netflix, or that was bringing a Sabrina show. I was watching Fat Man on Batman with Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardinard or Bernardin or what I don't know his last name Bernardin, but uh they were talking about how it'd be really cool to bring back Melissa Joan Hart as one of the characters in Sabrina, not necessarily a witch, but like the principal of the school that they go to, or there's some shit to, like just to like really to bring back Melissa Joan Hart because she was Sabrina the Teenage Witch on uh uh Thank God It's Friday on whatever network. I think it was on NBC Friday nights, and where they play Boy Meets World and Sabrina the
Yeah.
Teenage Witch and Family Matters, and there was another show on there. Like they always just threw in random shows, but and uh. And that'd be a really cool aspect to just like throw her in, or maybe not even throw her in as a main character, but have her come in for some cameos here and there.
At
And
least a cameo, yeah. I like that stuff. Like in the Spawn movie, they might do something like that.
that where you have some of the original actors from the old movie, or
Yeah, well, Todd McFarlane said he wants to get the dude that had previously played Spawn. He wants to have him at least have like one line in the movie.
they should have the same guy play Clown if the Clown's in it that turns into the Violator, because John
Well, oh,
Leguizamo was awesome.
well,
And
he said the Violator and the Clown and all that stuff. He said those guys aren't going to be in until later.
Okay.
He said this first movie, Spawn's not even going to have any words. He's just going to be a presence that's always there, like in the shadows. I think he said, I think Twitch, the detective Twitch, is going to be in there. I think it's before he teams up with Sam. I think it's just going to be Twitch. Uh, he said it's basically going to be about Twitch, and but Spawn is going to be there. He's just going to be like a scary presence.
Okay, so he's not going to be fully manifested into a physical
No, you're
form yet.
no, he's no, he's not going to swoop in like I'm here to save the day or anything. Like,
Well, he's
if
never
he,
like that. Spawn is
well,
never
well, yeah,
swooping in like I'm here to.
well,
Spawn just
yeah, but I mean,
Spawn just fucks shits up and then leaves. Like,
you're honestly right, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, okay, that's how like a lot of like hero stuff is. They just swoop in like I'm here to save the day. Like he's not gonna swoop in at all. He's not even gonna swoop in and be silent. Well, I mean, he is gonna be silent, but I mean, he's not swooping in like in cape and everything. He's just gonna be like a presence that's only there for like a couple seconds.
all right, all right.
Yeah.
So, one last thing before we close out. Going back to Archie Riverdale, what are some of your expectations? I know we've already talked about some things that we predict or whatever that happened, but what are some of your major expectations for this second season and possibly what the third season will bring us?
Um. Okay, I think we're gonna see Greendale at least one more time. I don't know why I say that, but I think with Sabrina living in Greendale and with the show coming, I think it's just more of a marketing thing. Like, as soon as you mention Greendale, you see a spike of like 30, 40, 50 articles like Riverdale just dropped hint at Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Like, I seen it every time they mention Greendale.
Nice.
So I think it'd be smart to, especially the last episode or two, something mention Greendale or be in Greendale, and uh, you'll just get a lot of articles spiked up. You know, people will be interested in where it's going and possible crossovers with the Netflix Sabrina show. So I think we're going to see Greendale at least one more time. Um, I'm hoping we could find out who the killer actually was because I don't think this plot should drag into season three, and I don't think it will. But with the CW, you can never be too sure. I know I've said a lot of bad things about the CW, but they really do have a knack for making bad choices. So,
It's
uh,
entertaining
I'm
nonetheless.
so well. It is entertaining. I watch a lot of their shows, honestly, but so, anyways, I think I'm hoping they wrap up who the actual killer is. I'm hoping we get a lot more of Chick's background, Charlie, whatever you call him, because I would hate for it just to be like a big reveal, like, oh no, he was the killer, and we don't really find out why. Now, I do think it's scariest when there's no motive at all, but in this case, I kind of need there to be a motive. Like I could kind of see it. He wants payback to his mom for abandoning
Yeah, he
him,
feels
and
betrayed by
that's
his own
fair enough.
family or whatever, and then like he feels like a kind of kinship with his sister because he's been watching her and like he's been seeing that her being rebellious towards her parents or whatever. He's just like, oh, maybe I can connect with her, you know. So like he's been doing it in secret, and that can make that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, but I don't know. I do want to know a little bit more about his backstory because I think they have a chance here to not make him so basic. I'm sure there's a lot more they could do with him instead of, oh yeah, I just wanted revenge on my mom. Because I think we could really see where it's going, and if they make that the motive, I really wouldn't like it, and I could see ratings going down. And I mean, who am I to talk about ratings since I don't have a TV show? And I know I criticized a lot of professionals a lot today, but I really don't mean them any disrespect. I just think that there are a lot of bad choices that have gone on at the CW. But that's all pretty much I'm hoping for. I just hope we see, well, what I'm hoping and expecting is seeing Greendale one more time and a lot more backstory on Betty's brother and I'm I'm thinking he's the killer, but I would be a lot more interested if there was somebody helping him out.
Absolutely. And I kind of agree with a lot of that stuff. And then like when we were talking earlier, how I was all like, well, maybe the dad could be involved. I kind of just want to see more of some of the side characters. I want to see more Pops. I want to see more.
I want to see a lot more Kevin.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to see more Kevin. I want to see more Reggie. I want to see more Betty's dad. You know, I want to see more of these side characters and what they're doing. And we have a lot more time in that. If we're only 10 episodes in, they're usually about 23. We have about 13 more episodes of
Yeah,
good
about so.
quality storytelling and whatever. So of course they're gonna wrap up who the killer is in this season, and then there's also gonna be like they did in last season, where as soon as they wrap it up, it's gonna go right into another tragedy, whatever. Where like when Archie's dad got shot or whatever at the end of the first season, and then they immediately pick that back up in the second season. So like it's gonna go immediately to another tragedy.
Well,
To
I will say this. I understand there's some characters that are off limits to dying. Like I'm sure Betty, Veronica, Archie, Jughead. I'm pretty sure those guys won't die. But I would really like to see somebody we care about die because a lot of these shows they always okay. Um, Jason dies in season one in episode one, but we didn't really know him. We had no reason to care. Then in this season, the janitor dies, but we don't really care. And
Miss
we cared
Grundy
about some
dies.
people that
I
got
cried
hurt.
when Miss Grundy died. I was like, no, Miss Grundy, I love her.
Uh, she wasn't that good of a character, but I mean, it's like when when Fred gets shot. It's like okay, we care about Fred, but I mean, it's it's less emotional when he ends up living. I would rather see one of these maybe main characters or a side character die. I think that'd be good for the show. It'd be good for
Cheryl's
ratings.
mom needs to die.
You see, no, I don't. I don't care if that happens, but I'm not saying like people's parents need to die. I'm just saying like we need
No,
like a
I'm
main
just saying
character to
as a
die.
whole, just as a person in general, Carol's mom needs to die.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really care about her mom's character, so I mean, sure.
And then I don't know. I don't know. It would make Cheryl more interesting because then she has nothing left. She has no family left and all that shit. And she'd be a lot more interesting character.
Yeah, but
But
that's
also I just don't like Cheryl's mom. Just like I think Alice Cooper needs to die. But she's an interesting plot device because she runs the town's newspaper. So she's a real interesting plot device. So like she really doesn't need to die, but I just don't like her. So I'd want her to die. I wouldn't be sad if she died. I'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, there you go, Alice Cooper, you fucking bitch.
yeah. That's all I got to say on the season so far and this first episode back from break. I don't know. We could probably record another one of these after the season if you want.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, sweet.
But hold on. I thought of something else. Yeah, is there any
All right.
Archie books that you would like to? Are you interested in doing just a quick review on that you've been reading, or
Um, I would rather review them after you read them because I know you haven't read the ones I've read. Uh, but
you
really,
haven't read the two
Afterlife with
I read
Archie.
either? But I told you all about them, and I
Yeah,
kind of wanted to talk
well,
about them.
well, Afterlife with Archie is by far one of the top books I've ever read. I don't know if I'd put it in the top five or if it'd end up being just the top 10 book, but I read it recently and I really loved it. It's basically zombie apocalypse happens in Riverdale. It starts with Sabrina, and I believe she helps Jughead when his dog dies, and then his dog ends up becoming like a zombie and ends up biting Jughead, and then Jughead starts going around like infecting people, and then uh, there's not much more I could say because I don't want to spoil the entire thing for people, even though it's only 11 issues. Uh, it's a great read. Uh, the guy that writes it, Roberto, I forget his last name. I know he created and writes Riverdale. But the artist is Francesco Francavilla, one of my top 10 favorite artists. Uh, it's a great book, and it always throws you curves, and the subplots are great too. Like there's subplots which you'll see in the Pussycats. There's a couple other ones. I don't want to get too much into detail with it because I like when people are surprised. I mean, I don't mind spoilers myself, but I know most people do.
Right.
But Afterlife with Archie, uh, I love The Walking Dead, but I don't know. I think Afterlife with Archie might be like a slightly better zombie story. I don't know, but I don't mean that with any disrespect to The Walking Dead because The Walking Dead is one of my favorite comics. I read it religiously.
All right, so as I've told you today, I showed you yesterday. I picked up Vixens 1 and 2, Betty and Veronica Vixens 1 and 2, and I read those today. And if like when you're buying them, going in, it's gonna be a total chick story about how dudes are dumb and chicks are badass and like they kick ass, whatever. So you know that already buying it. So like so you read the books expecting that, and it's totally that, where the villains are the Southside Serpents, and they're completely like misogynistic and rude as hell to their women. Well, there's one chick they have in there that we've seen, or in the first two issues that are out so far, and and he's he she you see this one chick and they're totally rude to her, but they do it in sort of a comical way. But then when you go into Betty and Veronica forming their new motorcycle gang and all this shit to go and fight the Southside Serpents who are now trying to wreak havoc in Riverdale because of some havoc that Archie accidentally caused on a night out with him and Reggie and Betty and Veronica, or whatever, like where they all got split up, and he accidentally caused some havoc in one of their clubhouses, and so Betty and Veronica are like, well, uh, Reggie and Archie are a bunch of pussies. They don't say this, but they're a bunch of pussies and they can't get shit done. So we're gonna form our own gang, and so they start forming around all these chicks or whatever. And then every time they go back to the Southside Serpents, it's the leader. He's talking a bunch of shit where he's swearing, but they don't type in the swearing. It's with a bunch of profanity. So like he's swearing, he's all yeah, all these bitches, all they ain't got shit, blah blah blah. He's like Riverdale's a bunch of pussies and blah. He's just talking all sorts of shit. And at the same time, he's being rude as hell to his girlfriend. And so so then you have this new superhero team in Riverdale forming a motorcycle gang, and they're gonna stop the misogynistic dickheads of fucking the Southside Serpents. That's what I'm gonna get. It's gonna happen throughout this. That's what the whole series is gonna happen. But it's written in a fun, comical way. There's a lot of good sex jokes, or subtle sex. There's good sex jokes in there. It's written in a good comical kind of way. Uh, Everything's straightforward and right to the point. There's no little bullshit involved. Like there's this everything's just straight to the point. Like and the scenes transition nicely. It's written well. Half the cast, or not the people involved. It's half men, half women. The people doing the writing and the art and everything is all women, but then like the everything else is all the men. So it's the cast involved is a good balance of both men and women. So you got it's a decent little dynamic. It's a fun. I think it's going to be 6 issues. So it's a fun little short story that if you're into that type of like women kick ass and men are stupid, whatever, go ahead and buy it. If you're not into that, don't even look at it on the shelves.
No, like every time I flip through it, like I see it every time I go to the shop, and they got like all 5 issues that they ordered of it are still there, and I flip through it, and I'm just like, nah, I really can't. I don't think I could read that book.
yeah, like I said, it's not for everybody, but right away, like when you're going through it, it's called Vixens. You know it's gonna be about chicks. It's gonna be about chick dominance of fucking winning over the fucking male fucking patriarchy and whatever. You know that's what it's gonna be about. So that's what you get going in, and I don't. I think it's written in a fun way. And that's what art. That's usually what Archie comics are about. Is some good story, like maybe not like the best storytelling, but like or not like the most original storytelling, but they're gonna do some stuff and they're gonna write it in a fun way for for maybe not everybody to enjoy, but for the mass majority for people to enjoy.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, Archie comics really grew up in the last few years. Like
Oh, for sure.
they started to take themselves seriously. Like before, it was just like that started in 1940 or 41, something like this. And I get it. At the time, there wasn't such a thing as cheesy. So even though the books were cheesy, just like Tales from the Crypt and all the other books at the time were cheesy, nobody really viewed it as cheesy, and they were all like, "Oh, sweet, I love these Archie comics." But then we got to the 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, all the way up to like 2013, and it was still just, "Oh, here's more cheesy stories." But then they did Afterlife with Archie, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is another great one to get. Then they rebooted everything, and Archie started over from number one in 2015. And I read the first four issues of the main Archie title. I have the first 10, but I read the first four only so far, and it's good stuff. I mean, it's still like you'd expect teen drama, this and that, but it did grow up a lot from pretty much the entire history of the company.
See what you get in the original 1942 Archies was like your favorite sitcom dynamics, but now happening in color or whatever. Because like at the time you had shows like I don't know what's actually not like this is way before even Leave It to Beaver and Gilligan's Island and stuff like that. But this show had
Yeah,
like dynamic like major like this sitcom aspects to it, and so you got a lot of cool shit, and it was in color or whatever. Like and TV was shit back then. If you were lucky enough to have one, or you were rich enough to have one, so like you picked up these books off the newsstand, and they were comedy gold. They were hilarious, and
do they still be gold? Like I'm serious. Like I picked up those old ones, and I've posted a couple like pictures of them on Facebook before, some funny panels. But it is seriously too funny. Like it's cheesy and predictable, but it still makes me laugh. Like I even have the first volume here on my bookshelf of the first I want to say 8 years of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and that stuff is just as cheesy and predictable as the Archie stuff.
Oh, I bet, and I bet it's still like just like really funny though. And
Yeah, it
that's
is.
what it does.
Like that's what I meant. Sorry. Like,
That like Archie is still like it will and always be just like a classic in the medium whatever it's always gonna be fun, even the dramatic stuff. I haven't read any of the dramatic stuff, but it's still written in like a sort of fun way where you just get into it. You're like, oh no, what's gonna happen in the next one? So like you're gonna have fun reading Archie no matter what era Archie it is. You're gonna have fun reading Archie.
yeah, yeah. All the Archie stuff is really good. It's one of my favorite publishers.
Man, I'm glad you put me onto that comics misconception channel, Nerd Sync channel where they did the whole history on Archie,
Yeah,
and
yeah. That was a funny
ever since
episode.
then I've been a subscriber to that channel because they have really good, interesting stuff on there.
Yeah, every time I walk into the comic shop, they always got Nerd Sync, and they always got a variant edition playing on the little TV there.
Variant's a good show. I don't really like the host as much, but
Oh yes,
I like NerdSync a lot. I like Scott Nerswinder is a good host. He's very charismatic. He's he's punctual. I know in a lot of these YouTube shows, a lot of people talk really fast, because they're trying to just get a really quick 14-minute or whatever video out. So like even when he's talking really fast, he's easy to understand, and it's really good. And I've been ever since I started this show, I've been studying a lot of YouTube channels and subscribing to YouTube channels and watching YouTube or whatever more, just to see how I can improve my channel, or just I enjoy their content, like the really good ones. I watch film theorists, and he's got another channel. This dude called Matt Pat. He's got two channels. He's got a game theorist and film theorist. I watch his videos a lot. He brings in a lot of science and whatever into movies and video games, and it's entertaining. And then I've been really into Cinemassacre lately, where they
Oh yeah, I watched them.
James and Mike Mondays has me cracking up because it reminds me of this show where we just talk a bunch of shit or whatever, but they do it while they're playing old school like Nintendo and PlayStation and Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis games and stuff, and that shit cracks me up. So I don't know. I get a lot of ideas on how to improve this show for when I am capable of improving this show, and I thank them for it.
All right. Well, any other topics? Because I know we got a little bit over the time you wanted.
I don't care how long we go anymore. So like I think that's about wraps it up with Archie, because we got off topic on Archie a lot, and
Yeah, you might have to just title this episode Riverdale and the CW effect.
I was something like that. I was going to say, what do you know about CW shows?
Pretty much, yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up, anyways. Because like I think like we had a lot of good content on here. This is it was pretty solid,
Yeah.
and so yeah, everybody, that about wraps it up. And so don't forget to like and subscribe. And if there's anything that you would like us to discuss, like you want us to go further into CW shows, you want us to just going further, like leave a comment below. I know only you and Courtney leave comments. My brother did once. So leave a comment below, and we'll see you next week when we talk about how Coors beer has is basically every beer you drink, and just other companies just add a little bit of flavoring into something else to make it taste different. And how antennas on your TV never really did anything. They were just for show and a marketing scam. And we'll see you next week. Talk to you later.
Peace.
What? Peace.